Okay.
So we are recording now, and we have a lot of brands. I think we'll put this on the Getcha Some Productions brand. Or maybe we'll just put this directly on the Handshake. I'm not really sure. So
Okay.
I won't do a formal interview. I won't do a formal intro because I'm not really sure what brand we're gonna slap this on.
Okay.
But just so you know, and just as I was explaining, this is kind of like a no holds barred, completely candid. No, we don't have any, we don't put any airs on here. We just we talk freely, and everything goes. It's kind of like a peek behind the curtain.
Okay.
It's almost like an insane art project, like a performance art project, where we just put everything that we do out into the public, and hopefully one day we'll be really famous, and super fans will get to look back at our awkward beginnings. So
Cool.
And hopefully we'll make
be part of that chapter.
This is wonderful. Yeah, and I hope that people are inspired by. We hope that people are inspired by our ineptitude, if anything. So we're here today with Mike and Cassie Peel from Rarity Rock Radio. Now, first thing is, where in Arizona are you?
Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, nice. Okay, so and that's where the radio station is.
Right. Yeah, we're based here, and it's an online radio station playing 24/7 and broadcasts across the U.S. and beyond.
Okay. So what brought us together today is that through, I think, Reverb Nation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So you offered us, actually, and I should say, we have a lot of different bands and brands and stuff. So this is regarding the Handshake, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. So the Handshake, one of our bands, a rock and roll band, was invited by you all to participate in something called what is it called?
Multi-genre
residency?
virtual residency, multi-genre virtual residency.
Nice. Okay. That's awesome. And so we thought that if we hooked up with you guys, we could, because we're happy to do some promotion on social media, and if we coordinate it, we'll have all the more reach, and it'll help us, we hope, and we hope to help you as well. So
Great.
Can you tell us about, I'm just curious, like, just in general, about like, I looked briefly at your website, and I see that you have some, social, you have some social awareness and some, like, a mission behind it a little bit. And so I'm actually curious about the radio station and what inspires people to make a radio station in general.
Thank you for that question. We're all about exposing our listeners to new music from under the radar artists and bands, and also from the past, gems that may not have been heard. So it's really under the radar rock in a very broad definition of what rock can be and has been, and really showing the past to the present to the future as connected. And a lot of the influences of the past really inform who we are playing today, that are really doing a lot of great music that is inspired by the past and pushing it into new boundaries and past boundaries.
And the station was born, the concept of Rarity Rock Radio came 5 years ago when we were actually back east, where we both have roots. We were on a trip to Asbury Park, and we went to the Stone Pony and saw Ian Hunter. And that's when it all really began. That was the birth of Rarity Rock Radio. So 5 years ago is when it all really started.
That's very cool. So you guys are from Jersey?
Mike's parents are, and I was raised in New York. So yeah, we both have that background.
Okay. I'm from New York. Dan's from Boston, or a little outside of Boston. He lives in Virginia now. But Dan, you remember when we played at the bowling alley at Asbury Park?
Oh, I remember that well. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun place.
Yeah. So that's really cool. I love that you guys are doing this. And I think, like, it's such a fascinating thing, and it's such a great time to do something like this, because with the technology we have now, there's an opportunity for folks like you to just, help put bands like ours. We are so far under the radar. I don't even know, like, you might need some sort of like underground like divining rod, or like some kind of like thing to figure out where we are. That's how far under the radar we are.
We're here
Yeah.
we're here for all of it, and that's the fun part.
Yeah,
is-
to excavate it,
Yeah.
really.
Well, we like to think of it as a discovery process. For us, going to record stores was always the origins of Rarity Rock Radio. Before we knew we wanted to start Rarity Rock Radio at the Stone Pony, I think it was always in the back of our minds, because we always would dig in at record stores and talk to the owners and the employees, and they'd recommend this band and this band and this artist. And sometimes it's just crate digging and finding for yourself. That's the most fun part, is you find this gem of a song or record because you put the time into it. So that's the philosophy behind the why. We want to bring that discovery process to the station and make it fun.
Cool.
And almost the way it used to be, being a music fan used to involve, it was very physical. And we lived in LA for 10 years before we came to Tucson. And, we had the chance we were very spoiled and going to so many shows. This is obviously, pre-COVID, but having the chance to go to all kinds of shows and having limitless opportunities to go to different record stores, scores of record stores in even a day is time. So just the inspiration of being a music fan, waiting in line for things, just anticipating an album coming out. Those are we're nostalgic about that stuff, I think, too. And that's part of this station, and maybe part of being an older millennial. I don't know.
Totally.
Keeping some of the old school for the new time.
Are you guys musicians or just fans?
Fans. We're not.
Nice.
We're big fans. I
Super
worked at a radio station in California, and then Mike and I worked at a radio station here in Tucson. So really just big fans.
Cool.
My uncles have given me extensive amounts of records over the years too. So we've got a big record collection. I'd say we're mega fans over here.
Nice. So can you tell us about the residency? And then I guess this is when we start to figure out how we can work together to, I guess, raise awareness. But what's the residency kind of like entail?
Sure. So it's kind of what you want to make of it. At a minimum, it's playing the song you really want to get out to listeners the most right now. So we'll be playing that daily, 3 times a day, following our top 10. We have a top 10 favorite songs of the month that runs 3 times daily. And we play that as a way to feature new music and new artists. And it's been really a big feature of our whole station to make it about discovering new music. Even though we have a lot of older music in the mix too, it's really both on the station, but we do really want to put more and more new music out there. And it's our way of this residency is our way of challenging ourselves to do that on a more regular basis. And so every week we're going to have a new artist profiled or band profiled. And so you're up next, and you're
cool.
Really there to give some backstory. And I think if you can give us any kind of backstory on the song, and any way you want to do that, it can be sending us information to share all over social media. At a minimum, you could record something that goes along with the song being featured in the top 10. I'm sure there are other creative ideas as well. So that's the basic description of it.
Do I have to remember what song I sent? It's on my Dropbox. I think it was Rejuvenate.
Yes.
I think it was I probably selected that because it's kind of like so it's kind of poppy, but it's more kind of indie a little bit, I guess. So, okay. And so how long is the residency?
The residency will last from Monday, the 14th of February to February 20th.
Nice. Okay. That's my birthday, actually, the 14th.
Oh, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure to note that.
So, um, so, do you want me to tell you something about the song now?
Yeah, I
Or,
mean, I have a bunch of questions for you regarding the music and your
okay,
submission. So yeah, we can dive right into all
Yeah,
that.
let's start there and then we'll get into our other questions.
Mhm.
okay, shoot.
So tell us about the selected song, the featured song for the residency.
Yeah, so it's called Rejuvenate. It's a song about, a period of time in my life when I was sort of feeling very, where I don't know if I could fall in love with anyone ever again, I guess. And it was sort of like, asking that question out into the universe, um, there was actually it was about a particular person. It started as being about a particular person, but a lot of my songs end up sort of getting a little, I don't know, I kind of drag out the writing process a lot. So, so one song will encompass, a decade of experience. So they end up being sort of like a patchwork of things. So, so the first verse of the song actually has a lot to do with, someone I knew, many, many years ago, but also kind of about my own experience with relationships.
Mhm.
And the first, I have to remember the lyrics of the song now, because I don't talk about this much actually. This song, let me think about this. Oh yeah, so the first line is, I'm sure every love song that I write starts with I. And people will be very probably, I mean, take heart in the fact that I'm struggling probably with the same issues. Having started this song, having started writing the song like maybe 20 years and finishing it maybe 10 years ago. Dan, do you think like maybe 10? I think I finished it like right before
Yeah.
we recorded it, which was 2012, I guess.
Yeah, you were writing and tweaking right up to the moment we recorded.
So I think, I brought a lot of the experience in. So there's some lines in there that are about somebody I knew, probably in the early 2000s. And then there's some stuff in there that I sort of, I got married in 2008. And so I actually just like threw in some info about my wife, because that's what I was feeling at the time. And I needed another verse and it wasn't done. But what I was about to say is that people should be, I guess, you should feel good about yourself, in that the issues that I wrote about in that song that I thought I was, being self-reflective at the time, I'm still dealing with today. So I haven't really figured myself out at all in some respects, which is kind of funny. But that's, I guess, what writing music is about. So I don't know, I don't know if that's good detail on the lyrical content, but that's
Oh
that's
yeah.
what it's about.
Yeah, it's kind of perfect that it's going to launch on Valentine's Day too. I think this really is a good timing in all senses.
Yeah, I guess actually you're kind of right. And then the recording the song was really fun.
Yeah, what was that process like?
Well, it was kind of, it was a little haphazard. Dan, you want to dive in? You want to talk about?
I think I remember setting up in his kitchen. Is that right? Yeah. It was a home studio. It was yeah. So this is like a home studio demo kind of recording situation. This was not rent a high-end studio for hundreds of dollars an hour setup. This was a shoestring budget demo.
Yeah.
Thing. And what we had going for us is Keith and I had been working at that point we've been playing together for how long? Since college. So 10 years at that point.
Probably since 97, 8. 98.
Yeah. So we knew how to work together and had total faith and trust in each other. So.
And we workshopped the song a lot before we got into the studio.
Yeah.
But it was very much like an epic one-day recording session. I think we got there in the morning, and it was one of those situations where like you were in the kitchen, me and Joe were in the dining room, I guess you would call it, or the main room, the living room of his apartment.
I mean, you have to, this is not a house, okay? This is a tiny Brooklyn apartment. Okay, so just picture this is like, where were we, in Bushwick or?
Yeah, Bushwick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had, my amp was in the isolation booth for my amplifier was the bathroom, which was not even vaguely isolated, because this is like a turn of the century building. It's actually a very strange place. There's an apartment building in Bushwick. And when you walk through the apartment building, there's a center courtyard that was probably a center courtyard for the residents of the building. They paved that over and built a house in it. So the house is in the middle of the block, and it's not accessible from the street except walking through an apartment building. He still lives there, but that's where we recorded. I will say one thing about the recording. After we did our initial takes of the basic tracks, which was bass, drums, and guitar, Justin Wirtz and I spent a lot of time layering. We did a lot of layering, and to me, it really felt like there was like after a while we achieved some kind of like a wall of sound situation where it reminded me at times, I mean, I don't know if this is actually true, and maybe we'll get feedback from other people, but it reminded me of like some of Springsteen's stuff, where there's just a lot of like jangly guitars and stuff. It's just like very layered. And that's one of the things I like about that recording, was all the extra stuff we threw on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
in later, I guess, I wouldn't call them recording sessions, but like, we gussied it up a lot or something. I don't really know.
Right.
But like Dan said, it was very, this was a very shoestring, not a lot of money was paid to the people who worked on it. And we have a lot of people to thank for all the hard work they did for no money, number one. And it was done, just by kind of like by the seat of our pants in a way. Like we didn't really know. We had been in the studio a bunch of times before, but I don't know if we really planned this particular recording very heavily.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well,
anyway.
I appreciate that. That anecdote's important to give you that context, that history of this, musician collective. And anything else you want to share about the Handshake, where you're located, and your history and evolution?
So there is actually one really important thing about our history, is that Dan and I were in a band that was actually sort of successful in our own way. And it broke up under, probably typical circumstances that that a lot of bands break up under. It's something that I think many bands overlook, because interpersonal relationships and business relationships are different from creative relationships. So that band broke up in an uncomfortable fashion. And that's actually why I called the band the Handshake, because it was supposed to be representative of the kind of like an honorable, it was meant to harken back to that type of relationship where when you had a handshake between two people who understood what that contract meant, that it would be honored and people would behave honorably. All I could say is I hope I have been, and it's not like people in the Handshake haven't been mad at me at times in the history of the band. And the band broke up not because we couldn't keep it together because of personal reasons, but we actually just dispersed. So now it's more fluid. I do a lot of solo stuff nowadays. Dan and I are still best friends, but he lives relatively far, so we don't get to see each other that often. But yeah, so that's kind of an important thing about the band, is that it was really meant to be something that was, I guess it was the intention with the band was that, you know, everyone would be treated, you know, well and fairly. Is that good?
Yeah, that gives us a lot of context and it gives us the background. And then you tied it into, you know, the handshake, which I think is, you know, that's what we're talking about too. So
yeah, that's great. So next, can you tell us about your musical influences and inspirations?
Yes, Dan, you want to jump on this one a little bit?
Okay.
Dan has crazy ones.
No, not really. I
I'm
mean,
just kidding. Totally
it's
kidding.
Keith and I are very have some overlap, but Keith will tell you about his interests. But I'm very much, I'd say, like a rock and roll kind of guy. Like that's most of my influences. When I was young, I was you know, all about like Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin. And then I was a metalhead for many years. I even at one point dropped out of high school to be in a death metal band. We should get you. I have the demo for that is up on Spotify, so we can do like little, you know, tangents there for you.
It's not bad, actually. It's quite good.
It's pretty cool. Boston death metal, but then I went back to school. I went back to college. It's all good. But so metal big time, and then after my metalhead years, I got into jam bands and stuff, Allman Brothers and Fish and all that, and then in college. Right around the time I met Keith, 100% like Frank Zappa and classic jazz like Miles Davis, Wayne Shorter, just like 60s, 70s jazz stuff, because that's what I was studying music theory in school, through and performance through the lens of jazz performance. So that pretty much sums up, you know, my deep musical roots there.
Yeah, and Dan and I went to college together. We went to Bard College, and we studied music at school. So we played in a jazz band in the late 90s and early 2000s. And then we played in a pirate puppet rock opera band called Jolly Ship the Whiz Bang for between 5 and 10 years. I'll split the difference and say 7 years. And then when that band broke up, we started this band. My influences are similar to Dan's. I think what I like to tell people is I think I listened to the Beatles at such a young age that all the sensibilities of the Beatles sort of got like hammered into my brain and became like almost like an integral part of me. So like all of my melodic sensibility and a lot of band stuff has a lot to do with the Beatles, just because I listened to them when I was in formative years. But back then I was also listening to Bon Jovi, who, by the way, I still think is like 2 of their albums are, as far as I'm concerned, 2 albums are masterpieces, and all that other hair metal stuff. But I've gone through like a million phases also. Like I think I love hip hop. I love some metal. I really like, I'm kind of like it's like, for me, it's Pantera is number 1. And like the other thing is like the one album, Rust in Peace, is amazing, but then I don't really like a lot of other Megadeth. I also love jazz. I'm like a jazz freak. I actually think jazz is probably one of the greatest human inventions, period. And it's probably,
I don't think we can overstate how much you love jazz.
I think it's, yeah.
We'll make sure we note that.
it's probably the highest art form there is, as far as I'm concerned. But then I love Stevie Wonder. So our music doesn't sound like that at all. It's probably most influenced by like just 90s rock, because that's when we were in high school. I was listening to a lot of, the usual 90s stuff like Pearl Jam. And then I went through a huge Fish phase, which, for better or for worse, what I did. I was like really into Fish for a while.
What I'm hearing is such a range, in your influences and your favorite artists and musicians, and you really cross and span most genres.
Yeah, I don't think our music crosses genres, and we have different projects for each genre. But I think the Handshake was really meant to be like, it was sort of like the 90s rock sort of. That was like, I guess I feel most at home playing that music because that's what I played, that's what I played when I was really learning to play. I was really into, it was in the 90s. So all that music was sort of just around. And I really think it was a great time for music as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it really was.
And of course I was into like at the same time I was into the 60s stuff. So I think Zeppelin is probably in my top 10. But I think when I think like if I had to say, the bands that inspired me to actually play music, like also Weezer, I think Weezer, I think that Blue album is really great. And then the one after it, Pinkerton.
Oh yeah. That's a Rarity Rock favorite.
Yeah. So I that's also like, that was, when you're a kid and you're going through all that kid stuff that, never kind of leaves you. That's what, and when you're in bands, so really all I ever wanted to play was like Weezer tunes. So.
Well, that's a really good segue to, your music. Tell us about your latest work. You talked a little bit about the featured song, and tell us about other things that you're working on.
Oh, well, Dan and I have this podcast. It's called Getcha Productions, and it's a production company. But our mission is to just, have a project together and just create constantly. And so, we're doing that, but it's really just sort of like the top of the funnel, and all of our ideas go into it, and whatever comes out the bottom is gravy. But I have a bunch of things that I'm sort of, I guess, it's very amorphous, but I would say that there's a bunch of projects that I'm spearheading. So I have a jam rock band that I'm kind of rekindling called Oliver's Musical Genius. And Dan and I and another friend of ours, we're working on kind of a narrative to it. That's going to be kind of like Fish's Gamehenge or something like that. Like maybe it'll be a cartoon or something. So that's in the works. But Oliver's Musical Genius has a YouTube channel where I put almost all my practicing on that channel.
Okay.
It's supposed to, my goal is to get to 10,000 hours of public practicing.
Oh, wow.
So every minute of practicing, I wouldn't say every single minute, but nearly every minute of practicing I do in my life goes on that channel. And so, like I said, Dan, and Dan and I are writing the story for it. So we're trying to come up with some really weird, like narrative tale of the members of this band. So that's one project.
It's a challenge. I mean, Keith and I live far apart, so we can't get together and play too often. So part of our process now is we're trying to find a way to collaborate even over the distance.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're not, what can I say? We're not like we're computer literate to a point where we can go on a Zoom call. You know what I mean? But some people have that thing where they can send tracks to each other and record albums remotely. We're not, I don't know. That's just not something we've been successful at. So we're trying to find new ways.
And that segues well into the question about what's obviously been a difficult and unusual few years, more than that now, for artists and musicians and everybody. Can you tell us about your particular experience in collaborating and getting past the barriers and what that's looking like for you for the future as well?
Well, I will say for my own individual answer, I think maybe, and Dan will have bared witness to this, is that I just kind of went off the deep end in a way, and just launched myself into like this YouTube project where I just record everything. So instead of collaborating with other humans, I've just decided, okay, I'm stuck indoors. My contact with other people is limited. What can I do to just put myself out there as much as possible? And that's how this project came about. And so it's sort of like a trickle down thing where, if I think I'm up to like 400 or 500 videos that I've basically made over the course of the pandemic. But we have launched this project, Dan and I, and we're up to 50 episodes of the podcast, or 50 or 60.
Wow.
So this was like, the coping mechanism. Dan's actually had much more success in interacting with other human beings than I have. He actually an actual band where he sees actually other human beings.
So I moved down to Richmond from Brooklyn to get married and start a family. And I went on Craigslist. I did the cover band thing, and that was entertaining for a minute, but I stopped. But right now I've got a bunch of two other guys I play with, and we're sort of doing a improvisationally electronic sounding music, but with live instruments. It's live-tronica, I guess you'd call it. I would love to send you a link to our webpage. We got some stuff up on SoundCloud.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, right please. Now it is all just, our band's called Element 115. We're evolving a mythology having to do with aliens and whatnot. And it's pretty weird, but one of my favorite things has always been to just go into a jam space with our instruments and just start making music, and really free form. I mean, have a sort of general idea of what genre we're trying to emulate, but just improvise everything. Do that for hours, for better or worse.
Would love to hear it.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to send you a link. Yeah.
The band sounds good, and Dan and I have had a lot of fun just talking about the how to interact with other musicians and how to improvise in an electronic music sense. It's more than just, I don't know, it's just like a different technique, and it's been very interesting to hear about the process. I think they sound great.
Well, please send us that link to Element 1. Is it 115?
Element 115. I mean, the website is element115.band.
.band. I'm sorry, guys. We have two dogs.
And it's got a very.
Your dogs are like eating your microphones or something.
Pretty much. They just got out. They got loose. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I think they heard about Element 115 and they really want.
Woo!
Screw them over.
Yeah, it's great. The website has got a very like early 90s, like GeoCities, like weird, like very, very retro looking website intentionally.
Oh, cool.
And I gotta hand it to our keyboard player. He's sort of a savant with that kind of stuff. He just throws it together, and he's the guy that's getting it all up there. So I can't thank him enough. His name is Jeremy Weiland.
Great. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just want to jump in real quick, because maybe I just had a really quick, because I know you're trying to come up with like this, like, mythology around the band, but maybe only dogs can smell Element 115.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
Right. And that's like, the aliens left it here, and people are growing like different like appendages randomly, but no one knows why, but the dogs know why.
The dogs do. Yeah, they can sense earthquakes and my band.
I like that. Well, everyone thinks their dogs are super special, but ours really are. We'll send you a photo.
Please, I love dogs.
Yeah, they've been on like Rarity Rock Instagram from time to time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask a question about kind of related to, being in COVID, but now with summer coming and potentially with some positive news on the horizon, are there any future plans for touring, doing gigs, that are full? Any thoughts on that? Any plans for that?
I have, but prior to COVID, I was playing a lot of just solo shows locally. I have a dream of getting another band together to start doing some actual like bar shows, loud shows, because I haven't played loud, and I feel like I haven't played loud in forever. I think the last time I played loud was I can't remember. Probably when we went to one of those jam sessions. I was probably with you, Dan.
He probably was. I like to play really loud. Oh, I love being loud. I love making a lot of.
Oh man, I just haven't played loud in forever. So I think that's going to be my first goal. I see actually it's Reverb Nation is amazing because I get invitations to play all these like I turn them all down because I haven't played a live show in forever with a band, and I'd have to, get a band together and actually start practicing again. Solo shows is fine because you can just show up with your acoustic guitar and do it. But so short answer is no. Actually, the short answer is, first of all, yes, because COVID is very stifling and very annoying. And if I want to do it more than ever now.
Yeah, I can see it being stifling. I can.
Oh, it's painful. So, but no plans, no concrete plans.
Well, and it's hard to make plans too, is what I've heard from a lot of musicians that we interview here. They're like, we're waiting to see, right?
Yeah. Well, here's something that people don't consider. If you're in a band, if you're a headliner, that's great. But if you're in any sort of supporting act, or if you're familiar with like the like meat market, like bar scene in New York, you have to sing on the same microphone as someone else, unless you bring your own microphone, which I guess, I probably should do, but I skeeve that out. That skeeves me out under normal circumstances. During COVID, it's like, it's a little too close for comfort, because it's just like, next up, get on the mic, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't know, you're singing, you're taking in a lot of air, you're putting out a lot of air.
Oh yeah. Lots of aerosols.
Yeah, it's just a weird, just kind of a weird situation overall. But we can't stay hidden forever. We have to get back. We have to get back out there.
Right, of course. Dan, what about any plans for touring in Virginia?
Absolutely, we are. Classic thing. We don't have a manager. We don't have anything like that. We're just doing this. The guys that I play with in the band in 115, they are like sort of entrenched in the Richmond scene. So we are we're just hoping to find gigs. There's there are a lot of venues here, but there's also a lot of competition. A lot of people have been sitting around planning and plotting and practicing, and everyone's coming out of the woodwork.
Right.
So I can say this, no, there's nothing already booked. There's no shows. I wish I could say we have this date, come check us out. But there's two sides to the coin though. Like, it has created an atmosphere where so many projects have fallen apart. There's so many free floating elements due to COVID.
Right.
That like there's a lot of artistic energy that's bottled up. There's a lot of people ready and wanting to play with nowhere to go. A lot of energy.
Right.
So we're trying to make the most of that by trying to develop something really unique. No one in Richmond's kind of playing the kind of music we're doing. But that cuts both ways. It's hard. It can be hard to, if you're playing musicians' music or something that is not, easy, I don't know, is new or unique. it can be hard to find venues
Uh-huh.
to do. So that's our challenge, but we're trying to make the most of it.
On that note, dream bands to tour with.
Wow, that is a great question.
Do you have an answer?
I do not have an answer ready for that. That's a really great question because yeah.
I have an answer. Actually, my dream band, and they don't tour with anyone, but this is actually probably, I'm revealing my insecurities. In my mind, I think a Fish audience would be the most accepting audience. So I've decided in my mind that the best band to tour with, because you're likely to get the best response in theory, is that you tour with a band like that, because they're open to some pretty like out there stuff. They've proven that. So they'd probably be, on average, you'd get more hits, with an audience like that, because they'd be
Can
more
I
open.
travel through time? Can this be like a time traveler thing?
Yes.
That's what
really?
Rarity Rock's all about with our station. So yes.
Okay.
Wait, you've got to be careful when you give him license to travel through time.
Yeah, because I might mess up the whole timeline.
Yeah, well, it's great responsibility, right? Yeah.
Right. I would be I would tour with Herbie Hancock, and like the Headhunters.
Oh wow.
And yes. Right now, yeah.
Those would be some fun shows.
Yeah, and really weird.
Yeah. Well, actually, like, what about old school Genesis when Peter Gabriel used to dress up all weird?
He bugs me out. I mean, I like him, but I don't know.
He does, but
I think I would like to be in the audience. I think I would be there.
Oh, that's another good question. Where would you want to be an audience, right? What old show would you want to have gone to? But yeah, this has been awesome. One final question that we want to make sure where our listeners can find you online. So if you can state your website for listeners to make sure that they reach you.
And the best way to support you, what would be most helpful?
I think, well, for the Handshake, we have the handshake.band. So it's the handshake.band. And you can, there's a kind of a cool gallery there to sort of peruse. Plus, there's links to all the streaming there and such. I would say in terms of supporting us, we don't really sell anything, which is something we need to work on, Dan. We need to get a merch store up. Maybe that'll be our 22 project, because we do have this sick image. Our album cover was designed by Thomas Warming, a friend who's also a really awesome artist. And so we got so lucky that he was willing to make our album cover, that the fact that we don't put it out there enough is a shame. So we probably should have a merch store at this point. But I would also say go to getchasomeproductions.com, which is our production company. And there'll be links to all of our other projects there as well. And our podcast, where people can stay updated. That's for mine and Dan's projects. But for Dan, what's Element 115?
Yeah, element15.band. We haven't started monetizing our art yet. But that doesn't matter. Just go check it out. Come, what would mean so much to us is, money is great, but to know that we're being heard, shoot us an email. Just say something, post something, share it, let us know. And it would mean the world to us. We're artists, it just means a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was wonderful to connect with you both today.
Thank
and
you.
learn a lot about your artistry and your work.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, same here. And thanks for featuring us, and thanks for taking the time to do this with us. And thanks for doing what you do and just getting under the radar music out there. It's really nice and important.
We have a lot of fun with it, so thanks for appreciating it.
Yeah.
And please send anything our way to get as much out there next week as we can. So like that image you just mentioned, did you send that to us already? Was that sent along?
I don't think so. I think I just sent you some stuff from some shots from one of our shows. So
yeah, let's get them that cover art. Let's get them
I'll
that
get you the
cover art. and
cover
stuff,
art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be
any,
so
any,
nice.
yeah, anything like that, promotional images, anything that you'd like us to post to promote next week, send it our way.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. And let us know. I would say, just so I think I'll try to dream something up over the weekend so that I can post it on all of our social media platforms about your station. And so I'll try to think of some stuff over the weekend. But if you have anything that you want me to do or us, just let me know.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm thinking.
Oh
if
yeah, yeah.
possible,
We'll definitely bust it
podcast.
out.
Yeah, getting the podcast to us if you can by next week would be great to cross promote both.
Yeah,
the rest
super.
and the podcast.
Yeah. That's great. So awesome to meet you virtually.
Yes, and keep us updated too. We're really serious about staying in collaboration with the artists that we play on the station. So
Yeah, keep us updated on
keep new
next
music
steps.
coming our way.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, you
Look-
got a place on Rarity Rock Radio.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you guys. Take care and have a great night.
Yeah.
All right.
You
Be
too.
safe.
Take
Hey,
care.
you too.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.